Guys, this is Ken, and today we're going to learn about creating a simple email application for Android programming. And I'm going to be creating random videos, so don't expect a complete Android series. This is mainly, I don't expect anybody to watch it really. I created a blog called Network Security, Android Development, and Automation, and Your Mom, and all four of those really don't have anything to do with it. Well, I guess if you count network security and automation, sure. But I just thought, regardless if they tie in together, I just want to put whatever project I'm working on online because it helps me, number one, retain the information. Number two, if you're interested in getting into something like this, uh, you know, maybe these videos will help, maybe they won't. By the way, I just started the screen on here because I just want you guys to notice how random my playlists usually are. So I've got Lights by Bass Nectar down here, and then Gangnam Style. If you roll up, I've got Eminem, and then Wale, Rihanna. This is so random, right? And then Foster the Kids. So I'm just called Foster the Kid, Foster somebody. You know what I'm talking about. And then Knife Party. Nice. Anyway, I'm wasting time. All right, so Eclipse is the program that you need to get. All right, get this program and Google that shit because I'm not gonna make a video on how to set this up because it took me long enough. All right, I have a Mac. Call me a hipster douche if you want to. I welcome it. But this took me a while to set up. All right, so I'm not going through that again. The thing is, when my hard drive crashes, and I know it's going to crash at the most inconvenient time, is probably going to be one of the worst days of my life because I have so many just things that I just don't even back up. Well, I back it up, but it's like, well, I only have one backup of it, and I have Dropbox, but I'll still have to reinstall everything. Anyway, so Eclipse is the program that you'll be using for creating all your Android applications. Now, I heard there's Android Studio. I've never used it. Apparently, it's easier to use, but I personally like Eclipse. So if you click File, New, and then Other, and then what we're going to do is start an Android application projecto. And for Java, apparently, good practice is to start your project name with an uppercase. So I'm going to call this one email testing because I already have a sample program I created before that was called email test just to make sure everything was going to work. And so this API stuff, I still can't get anything to work past 19. And this is just more for compatibility's sake. Anybody with a phone maybe that only uses, 4.4, will be able to use it 4.4 and up, but anybody below that, it, may not work. So here's your package name, which it auto creates. This becomes really important, especially when you start publishing your applications. And if you ever want to change this, apparently it's really hard to do. So I'm not on the level where I need to do that yet. So everything can just remain kind of default. So, and then just hit next, next, next. This is just the icon stuff. You can change it if you want. Excuse me. All right, blank activity. Bam. So leave it. Finish. All right. So, like I said, I can't get anything to work past 19. 21 and 5.0 is new anyway. So, all right. So basically, I'm gonna kind of go through the components of Android, um, sort of the makeup or the DNA, if you will, or the anatomy might be a better term. So it's going to bring your project up here now that we created it, all right? And then you notice that there's a source, and then under your package application, com example.email testing, there's main activity .java, all right? So that's our activity, and each Java gets converted to a class. It gets pretty deep, but just know that these .javas, each one you can have, separate ones for maybe separate activities, possibly separate views. as long as they have a corresponding view. You know, each time your user wants to do something new, you may have to create a new activity for that. But we will get into that maybe at a later video. All right, so if we go to so the main activity, the actual code, you'll notice, of course, in layout it says activity underscore main here. So that's just the view. We were just on that. And there's a graphical, and then there's XML. Android's kind of doing this XML thing to where all of their layouts and their resource file and their Android manifest is all in XML. So that's interesting to note. Also interesting to note, you should probably never edit. Actually, I'm not going to say probably. You should absolutely 200% never edit the R file, which is your resource file, manually. And we'll get to that in a later video. All I need to know right now is that this is the graphical layout. All right. Once you get this far, go ahead and delete this. Bam. All right. So when a user launches this application, this is kind of what they're going to see, because this is the part of the main activity. And I'll show you where that's called in the code. So if you go over to main activity.java, where that's called in the code, because this runs first, where it's called in the code is right here. Set content view R, it gets it from that R file. Remember, I was talking about never edit that manually. R.layout.activity underscore main. So this is how it calls that view. If we wanted to make another view, we just give it another name under layout and then call that from within here. So instead of activity underscore main, it will be new view underscore bam. I don't know. Bam just seemed right. It felt right. All right, so let's go to the, let's remove this, because I think that honestly we are going to remove all this crap. Crap. I'm going to remove this. No, we don't need to remove that. We just need to add another bracket. So this is one I absolutely still don't fully understand, even reading up on it. The super. Don't worry about that right now, because this is like a, from what I understand, it's so it can, it's more of a privileges thing. I'll have to read about that again, but most of the time when you're doing an uncreate bundle, and we'll talk about bundles in a later video, most of the time you'll need that, at least for the uncreate. Anyway, set content view .art is going to be what runs secondly under this. And you guys know, if you've been doing programming, if you've never done programming, this is a method that it runs. And protected void, so void just means it doesn't return anything. And public class, the class that we're in, which is main activity.java, is publicly accessible by any other class. So we'll get into public and private later. All right, so I think we should just start getting right into it, and I'll explain as we go along. So the first thing that I want to do is public class main activity extends activity. And we'll talk about extends and implements later. So we're going to do implements view.onClick listener, I think. Right? All right. So, okay. Sometimes this doesn't import, because I think we have to import this. Let me see. Just taking a look at some other code. Okay, so for some reason it doesn't pick up. So a lot of the times when you type in something like view.onClick listener or anything of that nature, you'll have to import the class so it can read it from that. Otherwise, it's not going to know what you're talking about. You have to basically just reference it, and it will make more sense once we do it. So if you hit import Android, and this is from the Android library, .view, this should work. So it's .view. I'm sorry. .view. There we go. Okay, so for some reason that why is there? Sometimes it doesn't pick up. Normally, if you a lot of the times if you press Control Space and you're in the middle of typing something, if you don't quite remember the command, which happens to me all the time, if you press on Windows Control Space, Windows Command, or Mac Command Space, it will try to auto-complete it, and it'll give you a list of options if there's more than one. So as far as this main activity, let's see, add unimplemented method. Let's do that. So what's good about the compiler is that it will suggest methods, and sometimes methods are necessary in order for this class to be used. So in this case, an unclick method needs to run when something's clicked, and we'll get into that more in detail later. So right now we've got the public class, and all right, so we have the uncreate bundle, which is the first thing that runs, and we have the content view. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up some variables, and variables are used for a lot of things, but I think that it's best if I just show you, and it's kind of hard to explain now, but once it's out there, we can, you know, I'll go through it and what everything points to. Person's name. All right. And then, oh, by the way, everything in Android or in Java even, most things have to end with a semicolon. So, all right. Also, when you get red things like that, I mean, you know, it gives you suggestions, which is awesome. In this case, we just have to import this edit text. Remember how I said that there's a lot of um, methods and calls you may be trying to use, but it's not imported, so just be cognizant of that. So we're going to create an edit text, which edit text is basically allows the user to type in some information, and there's two different ways you can do it. I could have just put edit text person's email and then edit text person's name. The reason why I didn't do that is because this is easier, so just put comma, but you can totally, if you want, you know, put edit text twice, but it's easier to just put in commas. So, and then we're going to have string email or address and then name. So those are going to be our two strings that we're going to use later on. And then we're going to have a button called send email. All right, so this is the code, and then of course we have to import button. Bam. Bam. I feel like this video is going to be way too long because we have a lot to go through. So I'll try to speed up. Guys, remember, I'm kind of novice at this. All right, get off my fucking back, bro. Get off my back. All right. So what we want to do next, I think, is initialize some variables. Even though we just did that, we have more. What's the best way to do this? So if we go to, actually, you know what? Let's just do this, so I can show you how this compiler helps you. So if we go to, so basically, by the way, why I put these variables outside of any method is because it could be accessible by any method within this class. So, and we'll need it later. So anyway, on the onCreate, this is what we want to run under the onCreate. We're going to create a new method called initialize. Is that how you spell initialize? Maybe. Initialize vars for variable. So this is generally how you run methods. So what's awesome is that even if you don't create the method, even if you haven't created the method and you're still referencing it, it will say, hey, look, I don't see this method, but do you want to create it? And you go, yes, I would want to create it, my friend. All right, so you see this method right here, private void. So private means it's only accessible, of course, here. So, and we'll talk about that more later. So it auto-generates the method for you, and then we're basically going to put some variables in here. So, and this is just mainly, I mean, we could have put it outside. But this kind of consolidates everything. This is better. So what we want to do, so what I mean is we could have put it in uncreate. We could have had these variables create as soon as uncreate runs. I know it gets a little bit confusing, but this is you know, to keep everything in kind of more. You want to get used to if you have a bunch of variables, just running one method for that variable before you know, any other code runs, or you know, where it's necessary. I'll kind of show you what that means later. I feel like I'm. Let me just type this out. All right, so edit text. So basically, what we're doing here, we're setting up a variable equal to the edit text. Find view by ID. Remember, I told you control space gives you find view by ID. You can find stuff like, you know, different. If you were looking for different commands or whatever, control space always, or command space on Mac. So r.id, and this is just how you grab buttons or text fields that we haven't created yet, by the way, mind you. So we haven't created any of these text fields or, you know, buttons or anything like that. So there's the code, and then there's the actual you know, the button in the view. So we're referencing, when we say email input, I'm referencing a button or a text entry box that I haven't created yet, and we'll create that in the activity underscore main XML, which is right here. We'll create it here, and then this just references it. So pretty easy stuff. So all right, so person's email, person's name. We want to make this edit text too. So bam, bam. Look how easy that is, man. So r.id. Name input. I'm just naming these random, by the way. I mean, you can name your resources anything. That's what it stands for. Resource ID email input. So it knows, okay. And I'll show you how you set the ID of the button and the ID of the text fields later on. So we're just setting up these variables equal to. And the reason why we're even doing this is because we're going to use these variables later in the program. So each an email, we want to make that equal to button, right? Button. And then I want you to go ahead and find the ID of send email. Remember, we haven't created that yet, so that's why it's giving us those red X's and stiff. All right, so the next thing is, maybe we should just create the buttons now. I feel like if we create the buttons now, let's do one more thing before we create the buttons, because I feel like the buttons are the easiest. So what do we want to do? Maybe I should create the buttons. Nah. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into this method. Now this method right here, oh, by the way, totally comment your stuff. This runs when the button is clicked. This unclick view, v passing in the constant, it just runs when when the button's clicked. So that's important to note. So if we go to under this method, and this is just another method that we're going to set up later. All right, we're going to set up this method, variables into strings, because we want to take some variables and convert them into strings, and I'll show you how to do that. And for some reason, the email, the intent, it takes a string array, and I'll show you what that means later on. But it doesn't take regular like strings. But otherwise, we wouldn't have to do this as an array. And what I mean by that means it's an array. Those two square equals, and then basically we're just putting one thing in the array called email add, right? Because yeah, we haven't created that yet. So if we go to, and then we're gonna create another string called message. And like I said, this variable stuff, you'll start to get it. You're like, oh, okay, we just use these variables to reference later on. So this is going to be a string, and it's going to contain, well, hello. And then how you append things, I'm going to append this variable. So whatever is in that variable, once we convert it to text, which I'll show you in a minute, it's going to show this. So we also want to, I don't know, this is going to be basically in the email subject, and then we want to end that bad boy. And I know a lot of this is not making any sense right now, but in due time, my friend, in due time. Honestly, I don't even know what I'm doing right now. I'm just typing in random stuff. Why are you listening to me? Go do something. Dude, don't you have friends? Why are you on this channel? Seriously, dude. Go out and party. Alright. So now, remember I said Android can help us out, right? So create method. So we're going to create another method. So what we want to do is, this is where we're going to create all of our other variables that we need. And again, once it's all done, by the way, if you kind of just want to gist the things, I would say scroll to the end of the video. Like you don't have to hear all the technical stuff. But I guess this video is going to be like super long, so I apologize for that. But once you see the end result, I'm actually going to explain everything. But if you want to follow along, that's cool. So all right, so variables in a string. What was I doing? Sorry, we got off on a tangent. Dude, stop distracting me, bro. All right, email. All right, so email add equals. So email add, that variable that we put in the string array, which is the only thing in the string array, which we had to use a string array because the email intent only takes string arrays. So we want to do email add. We want to make this equal to person's email dot get text. We want to use something called get text, which is a method that's built in, and then to string. Bam. So basically that's going to get the text converted to string. And that's whatever's in the person's email. Remember how we're just referencing things now? So basically a user comes, right? He types in something into the edit text field. And then that something is referenced in a variable called personal email. And then that something is referenced down here. And we're going to get text to string. And that's what this variable is going to equal. So referencing variables to variables can get really complicated. But you do it so everything looks neat, nice and neat. So we're going to do another variable that we want to reference person's name. So whatever they're typing into that field, what do I want? Get text, same thing. Whatever they're typing into that field is going to get text to string. Bam. Oh, sorry. Interesting. Oh, sorry. Does that make more sense? Yeah, email address, string. So we created a string up here. Yeah, sorry, and we're using it here. Okay. And now here we're making it equal to whatever that they put in the person's email. Sorry about that. And then there's one last method that we want to create, and this is just more to do with the Android lifecycle. Is there's an unpause method, and this unpause method usually happens if a user like exits out. We'll create that. So we should be able to do protected void on pause. Okay, so bam. Oh, shoot. Can't type today. Alright, so super dot on pause and then finish. So we'll just finish out. This is, like I said, this is for the life. If you want to learn more about the life cycle, then read up on it, bitches. All right. So, and maybe I'll explain it in another video. Who knows? So, so what we're going to do now is create these, and this is going to be really easy. So basically, for the sake of time, what I'm going to do is, honestly, I don't like using, number one, I love using relative view. Not many people like it. And there's different views, like there's linear, you can create a table, but anyway, right now we're using relative view, and that there's huge differences. I like relative view because you can reference like you could say, please make object above, please make object to the right of ID being another button. I like it, but it can get confusing for some people, so maybe one day we can show you that. So if you go to text fields, I want to do a name. I want to do, I wonder if they have email. I wonder if it's this. Yep, this is one. Kind of wanted to show you, see, I kind of wanted to show you how, whatever, this is faster. And then we're just gonna go up and get a button. All right, so from here, I usually like to just edit in XML. So input type person's name, so you can kind of guess that that's for the person. And you can have different input types. You can set anything you want, obviously, for different text. Like they have an input type for, let me show you, input type for email address. You see text, email address. So that just gives a little bit more, like you'll see the @ symbol in the keyboard or whatever. So when you do that, if you do type number, you'll only see numbers in the keyboard. So kind of helps the user out a little bit. So what do we do? Email. Name input, bitches. All right, name input. And then email input. All right. And then for button, I think we named it send email, right? All right, cool. So we have that set up. And then, of course, this is just the text right here that you'll see. So that's just the text for the user. And then it's a cool thing. What you could do in Android is set up something called a hint. So a lot of the times, you know, if your text is blank or whatever, your text, edit text to where the users, you kind of want to help them out and say, hey, you know, what do you type here? So to do that, do android.hint equals, probably do a string. I don't know, name. Why did that take me thinking? Anyway, name. Down here, Android hint equals. I'm sorry, I'm really tired. Email. Address. Okay. Alright, so that took longer than usual. Because I'm an idiot. Alright, so if we go back here, we should actually, if we save this out, it should Yeah, it should resolve those. Okay. I was gonna be like, oh no, oh no. Alright, so the last thing we need to do is once this unclicks, so basically, guys, remember, runs when the button's clicked, right? This method. And this is a method that we have to use because we used implements view unclick listener. So when the user clicks that uh, button, this is going to run. All right, so the last thing that the second to the last thing I think that we need to do is do the intent. Now, don't try to get too into the intent, but just know that this intent is built in. So this is why we're able to do it like this. I'm labeling the intent, new intent, if I can spell intent right. Wish I had spell check. New intent, email intent is what we're going to call it. And we're going to make it new, so we want to make a new intent, android.content. Really? You're not going to give me any? Action, it's action send. Come on. Here we go. Action send, so we want to send this. Here we go. Oh, by the way, we have to import intent. And we're going to type in email intent dot put extra. Put extra is probably something you'll use a lot. And that's so you can basically, in our case, put string into the intent, and it will show up on the email. So in this case, we want to do dot put extra. It's actually wrong. Android.content dot intent extra. Come on, dude, you gotta extra. See how this helps so freaking much. Extra email is what it's called. And then email address. Remember I said it took a string array? This is where it uses it. So it's gonna put, so extra email is basically, hold on. Yeah, this is how it knows who to email. It'll just put it in there. And that's whatever the user types into the email address, the variable. Intent. Click extra. Same thing. We're going to be doing a lot of this. Content. Extra subject. Pretty sure. And then for the extra subject, we have to, I don't know, put something in the subject. This is what's going to show up in the subject. Yo, dog, heard you like intense. Alright. And of course, the infamous colon. Is this right? Dude, what's your problem? Why the hell? See, alright, so it's a blessing and it's a curse for this. It will try to correct you, and you're like, bro, listen, I got it, man. Jeez, it just adds random stuff onto it. So don't put the intent filter. I don't even know what that is yet, like, honestly. Alright, so intent. So this is basically just going to text. This is, we just want to use plain text. That's all we're saying. text because we want to, yeah, and then we want to put that variable in message. So this is the extra text we want to go ahead and send. And then finally, you have to do this with every intent. So we just want to start the activity. To be honest with you, I forgot what was the message again? What did we, oh, string message, okay. So it's gonna put that in there, okay. So yeah, sorry, it's, this is the extra stuff you want to put in there. This is the subject, and this is the email. So let me start commenting these. All right. Please send the email comment. Email address pass through, and then yo dog. This is what it's going to put in the subject line, and then this is the email type. Oh, I'm sorry. Type of format to use, and then this is the subject. And then we're going to have basically that variable you set up for the name. Whatever they type in name is going to show up here. And then this literal a string will be bruh. And that will be memory plus you want to add on. So first it's going to say, well, hello. Then it's going to say their name. Then it's going to say bruh. Because it's random. And then the subject can be, So if you want to take a look at that, pause the video, whatever. All right. So we are almost done. The only other thing that we didn't talk about is setting an unclick listener and then putting the context of this. So we're going to actually do this in the onCreate. So when it runs the onCreate, what we want to do is set up a listener to listen out for that button to be clicked. Otherwise, it's not just going to automatically happen. So basically, we want the send email set. Oh, you've got to be kidding me, dude. Luckily, I remembered. Okay. This, which is context of this. So basically, it's going to say for this send email button, set the unclick listener. And it's just going to, you have to do this for all your buttons that you're listening for. There's actually a totally different way to do it, which I started out with, but I like this way a lot better. Seems easier. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways to do anything in programming or anything in general. But yeah, so this is pretty much the code. I think we're done. So I'll go through it again. So if we, so we're public class main activity, which is the name of this class that we created ourselves, extends activity, so we have access to other methods within Java or Android or whatever, and then it implements view unclick listener. And this is, we can implement, you can only extend one class, but you can implement several. So in this case, we only needed to view unclick listener. This is so we can use the methods within it. So we're setting up an edit text variable, person's email, called person's email, and person's name. These are basically the text boxes in which the user can enter text. And then string, email address, name. These are just strings we set up because we reference them later, obviously. And then button, send email. Of course, that's self-explanatory when a user clicks on that. So this uncreate method is something that's always created, basically always runs. You'll see this a lot in the first top of the class. And then we're going to set our content view to main activity. So now it's going to say, okay, this is the view you want the user to see. So whatever we set in here, graphical layout, it's referencing. And why did that happen? Might have to move this down. Screw making it look pretty. Here, that looks good enough, right? I'm not even sure why they moved. So this is what the user's going to see. And you see those hints. All right, so, and then we want to do, it's going to initialize variables. So let's go down to the variables. Here's our variable method. So these are the variables. So person's email, we want to make that variable equals um, the whatever the edit text is. This variable equals this, and this is so we can just get text to string, because if you come down here, um, you see person's. Sorry, that's not right. Variables into strings. Did I do that right? Where are these referenced again? Person's name. Person's email. Oh my goodness, sorry. It's so late. It is. So this is so we can convert text to string down here. Wow. Man, I'm wasting your guys' time. I'm sorry. You know what? This is for me, alright? Screw you guys, alright? So, you guys got that, right? So, and the reason how this is able to reference is because we're running initialize vars, right? And so we initialize our first variables, and then once it's clicked, we're going to initialize variables to strings. So that's when it gets the text to strings, when we actually click on it. You see? You see, buddy? All right, so anyway, so this is all that runs when it's clicked. We create a string array because it only we have to convert email address to a string array because that's what the email intent takes. Won't take a regular strings. Otherwise, we could just convert from get text to string, and that would have been fine. But for here, we had to create a string array and then put that inside the string array. So string message. Well, hello. This is what's going to be in the body of the email, and then we're going to append name, and then we're going to add bruh, and then of course you want to end that off with that. And then this is the intent. Of course, you obviously don't have to remember any of this. I only remember it because I've done it so many times, and I still don't even remember all of it. I still need help, like finding the particular what I'm trying to say. But anyway, you can just pause the video and view this. So again, please send the email you're telling action send. Grab the email address using this variable. This is the variable that we used because of email address equals person. We got it from we got the text, and then we converted it to string, and then we referenced it here. And then yo dog, this is literally a string that I used, and I could have just created a variable, but I decided not to. So we put that for the email subject. Then this is the type that we're going to use, plain. And then we used a variable here, and that variable just happens to be this message. So, and that's going to be in the body. Did I put subject? Wow. You guys are probably like, what the F, bro? You high? I live near DC, so that whole they just approve that Mary don't you wanna. So by the way, I might just show you this actually working in another vid. Unfortunately, I'm really sorry guys, it doesn't work. At least I can't get it to work in the emulator, which sucks ass. Such big donkey ass, because you can't do much with it. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I will see you guys next time.
Hey guys, so sorry if this quality sucks, but I really wanted to show you this. Dude, I'm having the most trouble, so you know how I told you guys that I can't really show you on the emulator? For some reason, my phone, ever since updates, it's being weird. It's like I have to unplug it and then plug it back in. So I wanted to show you how you actually run a configuration, but I'm really scared that it's just not going to work anymore. Honestly, I've been fiddling around with this thing for about 30 minutes. But let me just show you how this app is going to look. And this is, you can, again, Google and how you can test. I highly suggest not testing anything on the emulator unless you have to. So always test things on the real hardware. You see I have the emulator down here. I'll just show you. So you see the HTC is the real hardware up there. It's on 4.4.4.4 or 4.4.4, sorry. And then this is on 4.4.2. I'm using an ARM emulator, but it sucks, needless to say. All right, so run that, let that go. So this is what the application actually looks like. So I'll even, I'll actually type something in. So you see how I was talking about when you have different, yeah, sorry, I don't want to cover the microphone either. When you have different input texts, you can specify what input text you want, and then we specified that we wanted input text of email, and that just kind of helps the user. You see the .com down there, so let me type in my. It's really hard holding my other phone, and yes, it auto completes. It's pretty cool. And then Ken. Nah, man, Kenny G. All right, and then you see that send email button, right? All right, and of course, this is an intent. I mean, it's just giving us a list of where we can send. We can just say always, because I love Gmail. All right, so you see how it put my email in there, and then it put in the subject, "Yo, dog, I heard you liked Intense," and then, well, hello, Kenny, which was, what we put in there literally, and then you got that. You got it. So, and then we want to go send. And just to show you, I received an email just now. Sorry, I had to cover some stuff up. I didn't want you guys to see everything, but if